Just to further introduce
Yeah, sure,
myself, we have blessed with a smart, lovely daughter. She's now 15 years old. So, uh, let me first start with this True Parents' words. This is taken from the autobiography of our true father, the Reverend Sang Myung Moon, on page 106. I taught the Word of God through stories about my own experiences. Perhaps for this reason, many people found they were able to find clear answers to questions that they had not been able to understand until then. So, why am I showing you this through parents' words? So, I will follow this model in conveying or the word of God or the revelations that were given to the Reverend Sang Myung Moon. At I will be reading the word, the revelation, and then if I can find through parents' word relative or in relation to the to the revelation, I will be sharing it with you, and I will be sharing my experiences regarding the word if I have some, and then I will also be trying to tell you the significance of the word, the significance of the word uh, as we apply it in our practical daily life of faith. If I would like also to take to apologize if by doing so I might be making mistakes about it, and whatever mistakes my mistake about it, it's my mistake and my mistake alone. It doesn't have to do with the principle, it doesn't have to do with the words that has been the revelation that has been given to the Reverend Sang Myung Moon. So if you have any question, we can some or clarification, you can ask them after the the scheduled topics of the day are being presented, and then if we have time we can discuss it. If not, you can include it in your reflection, even the question, so that if we can answer it in the next meeting before we start presenting the next topic. So let me begin. Since I am tasked with the section 1, I will also be presenting the introduction of the principle of creation. Throughout history, people have anguished over the fundamental questions of human life and the universe without arriving at satisfying answers. Have you experienced this, brothers and sisters? Questioning fundamental questions of life, like who am I? Where did I came from? What is the purpose of life? What happens to people when we die? Does God really exist? Why do human beings hate each other, fight, and start wars? These questions were also asked of by the bearer of the divine principle, who is Reverend Sang Myung Moon, at an early age of 15 years old in our usual counting, but 16 years old in Korean counting. And he says, as he questions this question, he asked this question, my heart was filled with these serious and fundamental questions. No one can easily answer them for me, so my only option was to pray. This was taken from these words were taken from the page 65 of As a Peace Loving Global Citizen. So, as a child, have you experienced this? Most of us, or almost all of us, was have been had experience asking these questions. And also me during my high school time, I also ask this question, especially when we are in difficult times. We ask this. Father, a true father had been asking these questions when he during the time when their family have difficulties, especially when as was he told in his autobiography that in a span of 1 year they have been they lost their five of his brothers and sisters were died in a span of 1 year, and also they even their clan has difficulties in addition to the difficulties they experience as a colonized nation. So usually what I'm saying is we ask these fundamental questions in human life during difficult times. But for common people, we ask this during these questions, and there is no tawag dito. During difficult times, we turn to God for answers. For me as a child, when I am asking this, I I even blame God. I even ask God why is it that I am experience these difficulties. But you know, brothers and sisters, what how God answered me during these times. He answered me when I prayed, and he answered me with this warm, this comforting light. And then uh, after I experienced that I was so ashamed because I have been blaming and Heavenly Father for my difficulties, but instead of but it, he he answered me with this warm, comforting light enveloping me. Maybe this is the reason why Father always cling to God and turn to God for in prayer. It's not only during difficult times, but also during happy times, during victory, He does this. And even as a child, this has been his way of life. In fact, he after eating breakfast, he will run to the mountains and pray there, and then his father will be while he will pray while watching or the animals, the trees. In fact, his he will fall asleep as goes there, and then his father will find him and then will carry him sleeping on his back. So why does human beings uh, cannot arrive at satisfying answers in finding the answers to questions in human life? This is because no one has understood the root principle. What is root principle? The root the root principle by which humanity and the universe were originally created. What do we mean by root principle? Root principle is that the reason behind uh, why the natural world was created. So let's examine further. To approach this topic properly, it is not enough to examine resultant reality. So what is resultant reality? The resultant reality is the things that has been made. And what are these? The natural world, the natural created world, such as the sun, the moon, the earth, the birds, the birds in the skies, the waters, and the fishes in the bodies of waters, the animals, and the human beings. These are the resultant realities. The fundamental question is that of causal reality. It means when there is a resultant reality, naturally we can say that uh, there is a cause, right? There is a cause. Whether we can see this cause or not, since there is a resultant reality, there are resultant being, there must be a cause. And the very existence of this resultant being of the natural world, it it's but logical that there is a resultant being. This is There is a causal being, or there is a creator, and we can call this causal reality God. Problems concerning human life and the universe cannot be solved without first understanding the nature of God. What does this mean? I'm going to borrow Father's words, wherein people or humanity have been finding or trying to find answers in the wrong places. So in order for us to solve our problems concerning human life and the universe, we need to understand the nature of God. So how can we? So let's begin with section 1, the dual characteristic of God and the created universe. So what are the dual characteristic of God? How can we know the divine nature of the invisible God? May problema tayo. We have a problem. How can we know the nature of God when He is invisible? So what is the answer given to Reverend Moon as revealed to him? Through the one way to fathom his deity is by observing the universe which he created. And this was attested in the Bible in the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 20. It says here in order for us to know the nature of the invisible God, we need to observe what has been created, or the resultant reality, or the created natural world. So we need to observe it. And what was written in Romans 1:20? Let us read. In Romans 1:20, it was written, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." So the 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 revelation to the Reverend Moon on how to know the nature of God is by observing the universe. And since when was this? Out of curiosity, I asked, when was this uh when was this revelation was given to Reverend Moon? About when he first received the revelation, when he was 15 or 16 years old by Korean counting, diba? So that's 1935. And when was the Bible published, first published? It was by curiosity I have researched it, and the Bible says, and Mr. Google said, it is 16 1611. The first King James version of tawag dito, King James version of the Bible of the Old Testament and the New Testament was published 1611. So if I'm going to compute it, it's basically 325 years after this was revealed to the Reverend Sang Myung Moon. And it is only during this time that it was clear to us through the revelation, that it has been written many years ago, 1611 to be exact, in the Bible. So to continue, everything in the created universe is a substantial manifestation of some quality of the Creator's invisible divine nature. So what does this mean? All creation of God, all entities in the natural world manifest substantial qualities of the Creator. So how can we make that easy? How can we determine these qualities? And the revelation has suggested an easy way wherein we can determine these qualities. It is by just as we can come to know the character of an artist through his work, so we can understand the nature of God by observing the diverse things of creation. So, just like we can come to know the character of an artist through his artwork, and let us take, for example, Jose Rizal, our national hero, we knew we can understand that our national hero is a patriotic individual because of his work of arts, or his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, or even through his poem My Last Farewell, or the Mi Ultimo Adios. So since God is the greatest, he is the greatest artist, right? Because he created uh the sun, the earth, the moon, all these natural creation, we can also uh, know the character of God by the through the creation. So what are the common elements in the natural world? Let us begin by pointing out the common elements which are found universally throughout the natural world. And what are these? What are these? Take note, it's common elements, so it's more than one. So what are these common elements? Every entity possesses dual characteristic of yang and yin, or positivity and negativity, or femininity, no, masculinity and femininity. The principle or the principle of yang and yin comes from the ancient Chinese philosophy wherein yang and yin are two opposite characteristics but they are inseparable. They cannot exist without each the characteristic cannot exist without each other. So likewise, in science and mathematics, we have this so-called positivity and negativity, wherein in mathematics we have this so-called inverse operation, that addition, positivity is represented by addition, and negativity is can be represented in subtraction, wherein we have this inverse operation that addition is it's the inverse operation of subtraction, and subtraction is the inverse operation of addition. And in gender relationship we have this, and in reproduction we have this uh, masculinity and femininity, or male or female. In short, we mean this pair system principle. The dual characteristic comes into existence only when these characteristics have formed reciprocal relationship. So their existence is dependent upon forming reciprocal relationship of yang or and yin, or positive or negative, or uh, femininity, masculinity or femininity. And take note, there is the direction of reciprocal relationship. It must be from yang to yin. Ibig sabihin, from positive to negative. It must be from that you we must take that into we must be I must emphasize that the direction is from positive or yang to yin. Their reciprocal relationship must be both within the entity, same species, and between it and other entities. How can we how can we explain this? What is formed with both within the entity is same species, like if it's human only, if it is dogs only. So their male and female must form reciprocal relationship. How about both within the entity? Between entities is that with it can be in the family. When the parents wanted to take care of their children, there must be a reciprocal relationship or harmony in their parents. So that's between entity, both parents, right? Or if the children or the siblings wanted to cooperate to each other, and then that's between them. That's between them. And other entities, it means they need to have formed reciprocal relationship with other entities also. Just like between humans and the plants, wherein they need to form reciprocal relationship, wherein the humans are humans emit carbon dioxide, which is the 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 food for plants, right? And the plants emit oxygen, which is of essential air for humans to breathe in their existence. So that is between other entities. So all entities in the created world cannot exist without forming reciprocal relationship towards each other. So let us So common elements in the natural world. Let us take, for example, atoms, plants, animals, and human beings. For instance, atoms display their either a positive or a negative valence. So atoms, yung these are microscopic matters, elements. Example, sodium, salt, sodium is an element, right? Which is it's a metal element which is poisonous. Also chloride, which is also a poisonous non-metallic element, which is also poisonous by themselves. But if we we combine, if one atom of sodium and one atom of chloride will be put together, they will become essential needs for human. It becomes salt, right? And it does not it becomes essential and important. And these and they come into, and that's one of the example that the entities comes into existent and useful when they have formed reciprocal relationship to each other. And that's for the atoms. And then how about the plants? Plants propagate by means of stamen and pistil. Stamen and pistil are elements of plant flowers, of the plant flowers. Plants propagate through their seeds, but before there we can produce a seed, there must be a fruit. Before you can produce a fruit, there must be flowers. So let's take, for example, the papaya plant. We know that there is a male papaya plant and a female papaya plant, and we can distinguish the male papaya plant and the female papaya plant through their flowers. Try to kill since it is the female papaya plant that will produce when I was young, I always wonder why is it that there is a male papaya plant and it doesn't produce fruit at all. But I found out that if we kill the male papaya plant, the female papaya plant which bears the fruit will not bear the fruit because it needs the stamen of the stamen elements from the male papaya plant going to the flowers of the female papaya plant, so that they could propagate, so that they could produce fruit, and then through the fruit it can have seeds, and then they can propagate. And animals multiply and maintain their species through relationship between males and female. So it means the animals maintenance of their species is through the relationship of males and female. Uh, I'm going to emphasize it again, within their species. Only the male and female animals, or the same species, such as if it is dog, dog, if it is cat, cat, and then it cannot crossbreed to another species. Finally, human beings are either man or woman, and through this, what is the significance of this slide? Man and uh, ma human beings maintain also their species, or their sustains their life and existence through through the reciprocal relationship of man and woman. In Let's take for example our current issues of current issues about the same sex marriage. Why is it that the religious organization, most of our religious organizations, do not tolerate this same-sex marriage? It is because of this principle, the pair system principle. If we continue doing this, we know that the maintenance of the existence of humanity is based on the reciprocal relationship of man and woman. If if they continue to increase in number, man to man and woman to woman relationship, there will be this would lead to human extinction, because the relationship between man to man and woman to woman relationship cannot bring about new human being. However, so we have now discussed the first dual characteristic. So now we are into the second dual characteristic. However, there is another more fundamental pair of dual characteristic in reciprocal relationship. Every entity possesses both an outer form and inner quality. When we say outer form, we mean visible, visible. And when we say outer quality, we mean invisible. The visible outer form resembles the invisible inner quality. What does this mean? It means the inner quality directs the outer form. Whatever is the direction of the inner quality, the outer form follows. This is the ideal. The inner quality is called internal nature, and the outer form or shape is called external nature. Since internal nature and external form refer to corresponding inner and outer aspect of same entity, the external form may be understood as the second internal nature. Since the internal nature is the director and the director of the external form, since the external form follows the internal nature, it is understood that the external form is the internal second nature. Therefore, the internal nature and external form together constitute dual characteristics. So let's explain it further. The dual characteristic of internal nature and external form. Let us take human being as an example. A human being is composed of an outer form, the body, and the inner form, the mind. Remember, the body is visible, whereas the mind is invisible. Mind is the internal nature and the body is external form. So again, let us emphasize, I would like to emphasize that the mind directs the body. The mind of the human being directs the body, so that the body also, so the mind and body are two correlative aspects of human being. Hence, the body may be understood as a second mind. It means mind and body are inseparable. Correlative means they are inseparable, and the direction of the mind is followed by the body of a human being. This is the ideal. Together, they constitute the dual characteristic of a human being. So this is the example of dual characteristic of human being. Similarly, all beings exist through the reciprocal relationship between their dual characteristic of internal nature and external form. All other entities in the natural world, besides human beings, also exist through their reciprocal relationship, internal nature and external form, wherein their mind, the internal nature, directs their external form. And they are inseparable. And this constitute also dual characteristic among all other entities in the natural world. Therefore, what is now God's dual characteristic? Following our analogy in the first two slides, that being God being the greatest artist, and that the created entities manifest the character of its creator. The first cause must also possess the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form, which stand in the position of subject partner to the internal natures and external forms of all being. Subject partner means it's also in the old Oriental philosophy. Subject means initiator and director, the one that initiate and directs. So all the internal natures of the created world, from the highest being to the lowest creation, is being the first cause. He stands in the as the subject partner of all their internal natures and external forms. We call this first cause God of the universe, and we call God's internal nature and external form original internal nature and original external form. Since God is the cause, so we can say that the internal nature and external form of God are original internal natures and original external form. It is only natural to surmise that God, the first cause of all things, also exists based on the reciprocal relationship between his dual characteristic of yin and yang. It means if the created world, the resultant realities, or the visible created creation has also exists through their yang and yin. Also, God also exists through the based on the his original yang and original yin, which is constitute dual characteristic also, just like the creation. So what is now the relationship between the dual characteristic of internal nature and external form and the dual characteristic of yang and yin? God's original internal nature and external form, it contain mutual relationship of original yang and original yin. So there are two dual characteristic. First is the original internal nature, and each of this nature, the original nature has its original yang and original yin. Also within the original external form of God has the attributes of the original internal nature and has the attributes of original yang and yin, both original internal nature and original external form. So we can now say that God is a subject, director, initiator, in whom the dual characteristic of original internal nature and external form are in harmony. In harmony through their interrelationship or their reciprocal relationship. God is at the same time harmonious union of masculinity and femininity, which manifest the qualities of original nature and original external form. So within God, internal nature, there is a harmonious union of masculinity and femininity. Also in the original external form of God, there is also a harmonious union of masculinity and femininity. In relation to the universe, God is the subject partner, having the qualities of internal nature and masculinity. So that if God is the subject partner. What do we call the universe? Subject object partner of God, standing as the the external nature of femininity. In recognition of God's position as the internal and masculine subject partner, we call him our Father. And that the universe, we call it Mother Earth, right? Still on the relationship between God and the universe, God is the invisible subject partner, and the universe as a whole is a substantial object partner to God in accordance with the principle. God is the invisible. Even though he is invisible subject partner, we can say that he is God is existing because of the substantial object partner. It means the universe is visible, and this proves that there is a creator God who is the invisible and who is directing all the internal natures and external form of all of the universe. God's dual characteristics manifests itself symbolically or in image as individual embodiments of truth, which constitute the universe. So God can be seen through human in image, or can manifest in image through the human beings in image, and in symbol through all other things, yung all things in the exception of human beings. And these constitute embodiments of embodiments of truth, or the proof that there is an invisible creation because of these visible creations, the universe. Since individual embodiments of truth are all substantial object partner to God, resembling his original internal nature and original external form, they each possess within themselves both internal nature and external form, and likewise both yang and yin. So the characteristic of God, which the dual characteristic of God, of internal nature and external form, also the dual characteristic of yang and yin also is present in all the entities of the natural world. Just like God, if God has internal natures, also the human beings in image has also internal nature, dual characteristic of internal nature and external form, with the attributes of yang and yin, which also constitute dual characteristics. Same with the all things in the creation, only in symbol. In symbol, they also have same dual characteristic, same two sets of dual characteristic: the internal nature and external form, uh, within which is within this internal nature and external form are the dual characteristic of yang and yin. And and that ends the section 1 of the principle of creation. Shucks, tagal.
Thank you, Manate. Thank you very much, Ate Relina. Let's
Yes.
give a hand, brothers and sisters.
Thank you.
Yes, so that's actually the section one is quite long as well. And we are basing on the hour. Uh, anyway, it was really kind and shared to us by Ate Relina. And while listening, I like I'm reflecting also myself. So I I cannot stop myself to share this. It's the main point of this the section one of the dual characteristics is in the created universe is that we can be able to understand God through our environment. So people outside really not clear if we're gonna explain who's God. And now we can clearly say to other people that when you observe the creation, you can also understand the nature of God. And since we are part of the creation, that means there is a connection between God and human beings. That is the relationship. That in the divine principle that God yung sa ano dun sa diagram dun that God is our Father. It's very interesting. From the section one of the principle of creation, there is a message already that a heavenly parent is our father, is our parent. And that is in the first thing that the principle teaches us that there is a relationship between parent and child. So yes, and we can explain more about this one. We can explain this one more in this now in the section two, but let us clearly understand first the section one that this is this is what the message is all about. Actually, there are many uh, uh, like important details in the section one. Just because we have just only few time few minutes only, right? So that's why even in our universal principle, studying the principle of creation, it takes just the chapter one already months till we are studying about this principle of creation. So yes, and to understand more, I want to welcome another lecturer that we can that also we're going to share to us about this I think the relation the relationship between God and us in more deeper sense. So without further ado, to give us the lecture of section two, the universal the UPA like the purposeful foundation, the three blessings. So without further ado, let's all welcome Kuya Julius Escleto. Let's give a hand, brothers and sisters.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Hello,
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good
good
evening.
evening.
Good evening,
Yeah.
Kuya.
Again,
Good
welcome
evening.
for our 21 days online divine principle lecture. Before I will lecture, uh, I will introduce first myself, just short. So my name is Julius Escleto. 30,000 couples. I was blessed to a Japanese in 1992, and we have 2 kids. And presently, we are residing here in Pasay. I'm a self-employed, managing my just little business. And I met Carp and Juan when I was in college in University of Mindanao, Davao, and the rest is history. No? So during my full-time life, mostly my mission is as an instructor, no, Juan instructor. Now it is Tongil Mudo. So in the National Gujang, and my last mission was in Region 4, no, San Pablo. That was 1992 to 1995. And after that, I started my family. So really my desire is to know how to lecture the divine principle. It is because really this is an asset, no, for us to, especially in guiding our tribes and in fulfilling our HTM mission. So that's why I'm here. Okay, that's all. Thank you. So now we'll start with my lecture. So I'll be lecturing section 2. So in the section 1, we learn about God's dual characteristics of original internal nature and original external form, as well as its attributes of original yang and original yin, which are manifested in God's creation, no? In His diverse things in His creation. So now in section 2, I will discuss universal prime energy, give and take action, and the 4-position foundation. So firstly, universal prime energy. So God, the creator of all things, is the absolute reality, eternal, self-existent, and transcendent of time and space. The fundamental energy of God's being is also eternal, self-existent, and absolute. And it is the origin of all energies and forces that allow created beings to exist. And we call this fundamental energy universal prime energy. So if we observe here in this diagram, God, the creator of all things, is the absolute reality. God is real. Yes or no? So in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, God spoke to Moses, I am who I am. So absolute reality, eternal, self-existent. And also, as I've said earlier, we learn from the section 1, God's dual characteristics, the more fundamental, which is the original internal nature and original external form. So here, God's original internal nature is Simjong, the heart. And God's original external form is this fundamental energy. And therefore, this fundamental energy is also eternal, self-existent, and absolute. And it is the source of all energy and forces that allows created beings to exist. And we call this fundamental energy universal prime energy. So for any being to exist, What is required? Okay, we need this energy. So, example for our existence, the energy that our arteries and veins, no, that pumps out, the arteries that pumps out blood to all parts of the body, and also the veins that returns that deoxygenated blood to the heart. No, what is the energy that used in that, no, give and take of the arteries and veins? No, so it is this universal prime energy, not only us but all, no, all beings. No, it is the origin of all energies and forces, no, that allow anything, no, every being to exist. So sabi nga, sorry, it's stated in John chapter 1, verse 3. All things were created from Him, meaning from God, no? Without Him, we are nothing. So if God deprives us of His energy, no, then we are nothing. Then we all be dead. So we owe everything from God. Yes or no? So I read also in World Scriptures, sabi doon, it said there, God loves and helps anyone who follow God's words and do His will. So the thing that God, no, would love and help us is to follow, no, the law of God and His will, no, to do His will. Yes or no? Okay, next. So give and take action. So the question here is, how does the energy is being produced? So here, through the agency of universal prime energy, the subject and object elements of every entity form a common base and enter into interaction. This interaction in turn generates all the forces the entity needs to exist, multiply, and act. The interaction generating these forces through this process is called give and take action. So in this diagram, no, we can see, no, through the activity or the agency of the universal prime energy, the subject and object elements form a common base and enter into interaction. No? So this interaction is the horizontal force. No? And this interaction in turn generates all the forces, no, that the entity needs to exist, multiply, and act. So the interaction generating these forces through this process is called this one, no, give and take action. So here we can understand why God created in pairs. It is because if only one element, there is no interaction. If there is no interaction, then we cannot generate that energy, no, that we needed. Okay? Example, ito, yung between our mind and body, no? And we can understand also why God created in opposites. No? Example, God creates only all men. Is there any interaction with that? No, no. We will fight. And No, they cannot multiply. There is no multiplication. Are you? The four-position foundation, which realizes the three-object purpose through origin, division, union, action. Origin, division, union, action. So the process in which out of God, the origin, two entities are separately manifested and reunited in oneness is called origin, division, union, action. So example, no? Out of God, the origin. So God is an invisible being. No? And his dual characteristic, no, has been manifested in his creation. So here, it was manifested here, no? Division and reunited in oneness. And we call that origin, division, union. Okay? So, the three-object purpose. So, any of the four positions resulting from the origin, division, union, action, namely the origin, subject partner, and object partner, and their union, we assume the position of subject partner and engage the other three as its object partners, forming a communion of three object partners. So when each of the four then acts as the subject partner and enters into a give and take with the other three, then they fulfill the three object purpose. So here in this diagram, so any of the four position resulting from this one, the origin, division, union, namely God, subject partner, object partner, and their union, we assume a subject position and engage with the other three as its object partners. No? Then forming this communion of three object partners. And when each of the four acts as the subject partner and enters into a give and take action with the other three, no? Then this three object purpose is fulfilled, is realized. So we observe here. So God stands as the subject here and engage with the other three as his object partners. So this is the first one. And this another one when this subject partner stands as the subject and engage with these other three as its object partners, and also this object partner stands as the subject and engage with the other three as its object partners, and the union stands as the subject and engage with the other three as its object partners. Then when they completed that one, then they fulfill the three object purpose. So I would make an example, no, in our family. For example, today I lead the prayer, reading the word scriptures, then share. So in that day, no, in this day, I'm the subject. Next day, my wife also is scheduled for prayer, reading the whole bouquet and share. So she is the subject on that day. And the next day, my children also lead the prayer, then read the world scriptures and share, and no, they are the subjects for that day. No? And also with regards to um, knowledge also, I'm the provider in the family. So I'm the subject in that matter. My wife is good in managing the house, household chores, so is the subject in that area. So in technology, my children are good. We ask help for them, from them. So they are the subject in that area. So when each no, of the four fulfill that rule, no, then they realize the three object purpose. So in the origin, the subject partner and the object partner projected from the origin and their union all fulfill the three object purpose, then the four position foundation is established. So, so in the origin, the subject partner and object partner and their union fulfill these three object purpose, no? Then the four foundation is established. Thus, here we can say that the four position foundation, number one, is the root principle of three stages. Why? Because it is the three stages of God, husband and wife, and children. Yes or no? Two, root of the number 12. So because as its four takes the position or assume the position of a subject and engage with the other three as its object partners, then 12 object partners are created. So 4 times 3, 12, right? Then fundamental foundation of goodness. So for example, for an individual, when his mind and body enters into a give and take action with God, then he becomes one with God. Okay, oneness with God. So fundamental foundation of goodness. Then number 4, fundamental foundation for life. It is because through the activity of God's universe, God's fundamental energy or universal prime energy, the subject and object elements form a common base and enters into interaction, no? Which in turn generates all the forces, no? That the entity or any being, okay, for their existence, multiplications, and actions. Yes or no? So here we can conclude, no, that the four position foundation is God's purpose of creation. Okay, that ends my lecture, and I hope you gain something. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Yeah, Julius, let's give a hand, brothers and sisters. So since
Thank you. Thank you.
we all have like we have 30 minutes left, and suppose we have one last lecture, but we decided it would be next meeting. So yeah, section 1 and section 2. Um, as what I have explained, the introduction of the divine principle. The principle teaches us like the religion and science, right? And this chapter 1, especially section 1 and section 2, is talking about science. Dual characteristics. This is a universal principle that might do universal characteristics that we can see in our environment. The universal prime energy is an energy. Energy. This is based in science. So both this Father explaining to us the meaning of our life, even based on science. So yung sinabi ni Kuya Julius that Julius explaining about the universal prime energy, the give and take action. When I was while studying this one in our universal in our class in the UPTA, you know, I my mind is like, the problem is when I study the principle, that time I always use my mind to understand. Uh, like systematically, parang ganun. So I came to the point that I was not able to feel the heart of God. It's because when I studied the universal prime energy, talking about science, and you will tend to, if you will only use the mind, you will tend to forget religion. So I stopped myself for just like, this is not good anymore. I tend like, it seems like the science really much better than religion. That's what I'm thinking. So I stop myself and pray. And then when I read again, and then Father's divine principle, it says there that not just the universe of prime energy is the other part of God. Because God, behind God is a God of love. So so if I'm going to focus my mind based on this universal prime energy, I will not be able to understand this one. I cannot be able to understand it as the real characteristics of God. So so that is why I was so happy. It's really good if we will not only use our mind but also use our heart in understanding the principle. So, and then this universal prime energy is dwelling each and every one of us. So, and we have this give and take action. This symbolizes that we have Father actually is talking about this give and take action, the living for the sake of others. That the energy is given to us by God, the universal prime energy. The purpose of this one is to give and take action with each other in order for us to exist, multiply, and act. In order for us to live eternally. And it's very interesting because from this one, it forms the purpose foundation, which is the fundamental foundation of our life. That if we don't have this purpose foundation, centering in God, then we couldn't find the real meaning or the real path of our life. Because this purpose foundation, as what explained by Kuya Julius, that centering upon God, the subject and object partners united, and through their union, we have this give and take within this core position, that it will create another life, that this is the eternal purpose of creation. So yeah, and I want even though we were not able to like explain to you like briefly, systematically, but I do hope that from this lecture, um, yeah, when I studied the principle, actually, sorry, I have to say this one, but when I studied the principle, I thought only like understanding it based in systematic, in philosophically like that, but I realized that Father gave us meaning. There's a meaning behind every section, especially the chapter one. And I was not able to understand. I've I'm receiving this um, principle long time ago, 10 years ago, and only now that I was able to understand the meaning, like the real meaning that I can apply based on my real experience. So, and you know what? This is not. We are giving this, trying to share to you what we've learned, what yeah, what we knew. But the portion of responsibility is not only us. That is why it's very important, also brothers and sisters, that you you have to study as well. Really, I'm badly serious because I always want God to express His message through me. I always pray before I speak to everybody, and I let God please share your heart to them, God, and I hope that yeah, not only us um, giving to you this one, sharing to you this one, we also have this portion of responsibility that we also need to search more based on daily hondoke like that. If you have some other time, you can read divine principle. Yeah. Anyways, we have a few minutes more, and I want to hear a reflection from you guys, brothers and sisters. What did you learn? And I want to know what are the lessons. This is my point. What is the lesson that you've learned while listening to the lecture? Just one point, I think, or 2 points. Yeah, I hope so. Okay, I will call. I uh, I want someone to volunteer. Yeah, it's better if someone will volunteer. Yeah, is there anybody? Is there anybody who wants to volunteer? Share their heart. Okay, I think none. I expect that actually, based on our experience. The uh, but first batch and second batch. So I want to call someone. Um, Let me ask Tibel Arellano. Tibel, welcome. Yes, welcome, Tibel.
Good evening to
Tibel,
everyone. I understand that
evening.
I understand I have to speak English. What I have learned, well, actually, just I'd actually be sharing instead of like trying to let you know what I understand. Basically, the first part and the second part would be um sort of a background for the whole divine principle. So this is how I get it. It's just an introduction, especially if you have a lot of questions about why me, why I'm here, why this, and why life, and why God, why everybody, or anything that I see. tangible or intangible, meaning the things that I see or don't see. So, um, for me, this is just the background to all the learning experience that we shall be having here. So, um, you know, um, I take it as a like like I said, an introduction to the future learning. Um, is it am I is it non-religious because it sounds like scientific? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is like in a book. There is an intro, a prologue, or how you start, like the background of what you're going to read. So this is what it is. So if we understand, then well enough. If not, then yes, let's continue the study. Thank you.
Thank you, Well, yeah, if our understanding is not enough, then it's really good if we study on ourselves as well, because you learn from it. And if you when reading the divine principle, and if you were not able to understand some of the part, it's better if you ask those elders and brothers and sisters, especially the our elders, because they will explain to you, maybe that will help you, not just based on our own understanding. So it's really it's good also if we ask some other opinions as well. Thank you, Ate Bel. And Sir Randy,
Yes,
I want you to share something, sir, because yeah, we wanna hear
something,
anything
something.
you wanna say. Okay, let's welcome brothers and sisters, Sir Randy Abe.
Hi, good evening, brothers and sisters, and I'm very happy that medyo 23 pa rin tayo. No?
Good evening,
Kanina
sir.
20, hello, good evening. Kanina 25 yata tayo kanina, tapos 23. So anyway, where to start? So this is chapter 1, right? Chapter 1, 2 section. Before, every time I give this lecture, I always think that based on what is being presented on the book. But when I realized, Father said, the book is not the real principle. But where's the real principle? It is the actual practice of what is being written in the book. So that's the time that I try to, how can I present the divine principle based on what Father wanted to? So ang ginawa ko, I did my own individual condition for 8 years, read the divine principle over and over again until such time na, yun nga, I joined yung translation team ng Chung Sung Gyong. I don't ko na-realize na ganun pala yun. Lalo na pagka na-encounter ko yung word ni Father during that our translation, that every time Father said that if there will be somebody who will say that, Father, you can now take a rest, don't worry about the providence, don't worry about the expansion of your vision, of your will, na yun yung binigay sa ni God, nandito kami. And that's the time that I realized na what is really the divine principle? Okay. What is really the message that is being sent to us? What is the truth that is being given to us by true parents? Because a Christian said the Bible is absolute truth, right? That's why they said they cannot change what is in the Bible. But when you look at the Bible itself, okay, it's not really the truth itself, but it's just a guide on how we can practice the truth. Aju? That's why even in the divine principle, actually, what was being presented will give us a clear understanding that God and I is not different from each other. That's why Jesus said 2,000 years ago, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. And I am the Father as the Father is in me. And true Father said that we are the true sons and daughters of God. Why? Okay, looking at the dual characteristics, the two sets of dual characteristics, internal and external, positive and negative, present within the original internal nature and original external form, together constitute just likened to the DNA that we have inherited from our parents. That's why we cannot say that I am just a human being, my dear brothers and sisters. From the dual characteristics alone, we can see that we are first and foremost the most beautiful and the most precious sons and daughters of God. That the characteristics that He has, He poured out all of these things in order for us to live. And our connection, the minimal connection of God to us, is being presented in the second section. The presence of an energy. Diba? Why are we living? It's because of energy. And energy is, we cannot destroy it or we cannot recreate. But we can just reaccumulate it through continuously practicing a lifestyle of living for the sake of others. Aju? That's why without anything, okay, we cannot say that I cannot live for others. That's not true, brothers and sisters. Because that is the blueprint of our existence. In order for us to be in harmony together, we have to unleash our mindset that I am alone. Even in science nga, sinasabi, di ba? No man is an island. No man can live alone. We needed each other. Yeah, from the smallest up to the complex things that we have, it is always a pattern of living for others. Na yung common base na sinasabi natin is, if both of us can feel that we are responsible for each other, that's the time that it will move on. There will be a coexistence. And this is the message that we can see from the first section and second section. We cannot say that tao lang ako. But we have to go back to the message of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago. You must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. It is not a request, but it is a mandatory command that each of us should fulfill. And how can we do it? Accepting that the characteristics that I have a common characteristics that I have inherited, or not inherited, but it is being given to God, given by God to us. And the only thing that we needed to do is to constantly enjoy and practice it. Using not our energy, but even God's energy. Aju? So this is the message that we can learn from the two sections. And this is a very important thing that we have to understand. Okay? If we wanted to start a new beginning, we have to say that, oh, I'm really God's son. I am really a God's son's or daughter. And that is the thing that we have to admit, so that when we look at each other, when we talk to each other, it's not the satanic influence ang mangibabaw, but it is God's heart and God's love. Kaya nga, sabi nga ni Father, after knowing the principle, the most important na we can see in every individual is you must become a champion of living for the sake of others. Aju? How much we prioritize God more than anything else. How much we enjoy practicing the harmonious relationship of the dual characteristics that we have. And expand it by practicing living for the sake of others. Looking at higher perspective more than just clinging into individual perspective. Aju? And these are the actually since I joined the movement, that was 1993. Only after finishing a 8-year course, 8 years of continuous studying the divine principle, that I realized. Because during that time, yung first na pag-lecture ko dito sa Manila noon sa with the pastors, the first question that they have thrown to me is, what is the real message that Reverend Moon is giving to humanity? And during that time, I cannot really give an answer. And because of that, they criticize true parents. And since then, I realized I cannot really be proud of true parents unless I understand what is the exact message the true father is sending to us. That's why it's really important, brothers and sisters. It's not enough to listen, actually. Okay? Lectures, we will just present to you some hint on what is really the message. But to discover the message is how much you understand it when you read and how much you practice and overcome your individual desire more than anything else. Aju? Just like, for example, if you're very much hungry in the morning, which one will you prioritize, to pray or to eat? Right? And when you choose, which one will you choose? That depends on how much you understand the message that true parents have given us, or how much we understand our relationship to God, and how much we practice the basic principle of the universe. So I hope, brothers and sisters, that we will have that kind of mindset, because now it is a era wherein we needed to fulfill our responsibility. When we say fulfill our responsibility, we are the one who will choose. It's not God anymore who will choose, but it is the one who will prove to Satan that, God, I am with you. That's why Satan, okay? The characteristics that I inherited from the fall is already cut off through the divine principle. So we have to have that kind of declaration, brothers and sisters. Aju? So this is very important, okay? That's why we really needed to, akala ko nga nun is, after fulfilling 120 days workshop, I can already stop reading the divine principle. But it challenges me to read more, because I needed to train more myself. And when I attended Hondokhe with Father in Korea, when I asked some of the guard, what time did Father wake up? Said, actually, Father just slept 1 hour. And then after sleeping 1 hour, he already started to read his speech. And the speech that he is talking about is no other than about the application of the divine principle. So even at the last breath of our true Father, he's still studying his words, and most especially the principle that he received from God. And how much more to us, brothers and sisters. Kaya sabi ko nun is, how arrogant I am saying before that I already know the principle. Okay. If you know the pages, actually that's just an external knowing of the principle. The most important is how much we transform, centering on practicing what is really the message, the deeper meaning of the principle. Aju? So
True.
to to give some final words, actually, just like what I've said, brothers and sisters, chapter 1 is knowing my relationship to God. What is the characteristics of God that is present in me, so that I can say that I am really proudly declare that I am a son and daughter of God. And we cannot see anything that is different from God's characteristics, knowing the two sets of dual characteristics presented in the first section of the chapter 1 of the divine principle. And gaya nga rin ang sinasabi sa atin na our life is, we have just borrowed from God, because the energy that we have, it is an energy that comes from God. Minimal energy so that we can live and act in accordance to God's purpose and God's direction. Aju? So with that, brothers and sisters, I hope that we have learned something today from the presentation, and we have discovered Okay? The real essence of the principle. Magandang gabi po.
Thank you, sir. Let's give hand, brothers and sisters. So, isn't it wonderful if we've learned the divine principle?
Truly
Same,
amazing.
yeah, the same as what we've shared for you, brothers and sisters, right? Not just, oh, God has been doing eternal nature, eternal form, but yeah, more on the deepened understanding of this principle that Father teaches us. That's what I have said. It's a very long time, and now many lectures we've heard already, and we're trying to make a different approach so that we can be able to really understand what true Father is trying to tell us. And I hope Father is proud of us listening to this really amazing principle. And I do hope that, as what I have always said every time with other batches, that what we've learned now is not just from here. Because I think, I do believe that if you stand after the prayer, if you stand, your mind will shift to think of other things. You will forget everything. Maybe some of you. I hope that after the prayer, when you stand, remember dual characteristics. Yung pala yun, parent-child relationship or something. Yeah, and then yes. Anyway, we have many things to learn, and I do hope that you will be excited. Although there are some challenges because of some internet connection problems, but I do hope that though we have limitations, please understand, and I hope that you could also like motivate yourself, listen more, and to hear, yeah, listen more from us, and don't forget to pray always before attending the lecture. That's really important. Anyways, it's time already. Please bring home the bacon. This is really it's good to bring home at home this kind of blessing from our parents. So let's close this with a prayer. Wants to pray. I think I mean I will choose.
Again, I will pray.
Sir. Yes, thank you, sir.
Please hear my prayer. Our most beloved Heavenly Parents, thirst true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, we have just learned and understand our commonality together. And I pray, Father, that we just not look at it externally, but we look at it internally, just like unto our DNA that is interwoven, inheriting the characteristics of our parents, and like unto the characteristics of God that we have, that is being given to us. And I pray, Father, that as we continue to discover the precious words of our true parents, the precious message of our true parents centering on the completed testament age through the divine principle, I pray, Father, that we could truly and deeply understand it, not only basing on how we interpret it, but most especially challenging ourselves to practice it so that we can really substantialize it as part of our life. So Father in heaven, with these brothers and sisters who are joining these 21 days, I pray, Father, that we could learn from each other together and discover together how we could really work together and how we could really share our hands together to really substantialize Chunil Group that our true parents have been longing for since the beginning of their mission here on earth, that there will be someday, there will be one nation that will be claimed by you. And I pray, Father, that we could really challenge ourselves, that beyond our individual circumstances, we could transcend all of these things and always think of how we can, by little means that we have, how we can really support and how we could really establish, or how we could really lay a hands in building God's kingdom, your kingdom here on earth. So, Father in heaven, starting from this education process that you have organized for us, I pray, Father, that we could always have that kind of open heart and open mind and be ready to receive the challenge of changing our lifestyle centering upon you. So, Father in heaven, we're so grateful and thankful that with your mouthpiece, with your representatives, I pray, Father, that we could really receive your heart more than anything else and experience your heart, and most especially make a determination that we have to do the same thing and expand the foundation that our true parents have laid. Thank you, Father. May you please accept whatever things that we have today, and I pray, Father, that you could enrich all of these things, and we could really make it as a way that it will become a fertilizer of our lives, so that we could live happily together with our brothers and sisters until the day that we could really see the kingdom that you wanted to be established here on earth. So, Father in heaven, with this, Father would like to report and offer everything to you and give back our utmost sincerity and determination in your name. Randy and Ria, may bless and their family. June.
True. Thank you, brothers and
Okay, so
sisters.
good night, brothers and sisters,
Ay,
and see
before-
you again next.
Picture pala tayo.
Wala bang picture?
Yes. Open your, kindly open your cameras, brothers and sisters.
Please show your face, brothers and
Show your
sisters.
Let's have picture taking. Sino pa dyan? Precious, Sarah, Shin. Oliver, Larissa. Okay. Okay. Smile. 1, 2, 3. One more. Heart. 1, 2.
Sarang iyo.
Sarang iyo. Next. Vision 2027. Sungi, sungi. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, good night, everybody, and see you on Monday.
Good night.
See you next meeting.
Everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Miss Sylvia. Good night, Miss Sylvia. Ay, nawala na siya.
Thank you, Ate Relina, for your hard work, and everybody. Kuya Julius. Hi, Ate Ara.
Where's Miss Ara? Nakita ko kanina.
Ayun. Ayun, te. The
Ayun,
princess.
nakita ko.
Ate Sara.
Hindi pa pala siya
Ate Sara. Yung sinabi ko ha. Consider mo yun. Nire-recruit ko yun mag-off sa kuya. Nilagyan ko yung mag-UPDA.
Sorry for Halloween. How are we going to send the picture for? Can you please send your email to the GC? The test we just took for.
Ano daw?
You mean the picture, the group picture?
No, for the test we took, you said we should send it to your Gmail, but I
Do you have Facebook, ate?
Yes, I do have Facebook.
Yeah, search my name and you can send it on my Facebook Messenger.
Oh, I can send it through Messenger, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for.
I will write my name.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everybody. Kuya Randy, good night. Thank you for your beautiful heart always. And everyone. Very moving.
Hi, Miss Ara.
Hello po. Good night. Thank you.
Hindi ko pa natetext ulit si mama mo. Hindi ko pa natetext si
Ako din kung ano
si mama
ginagawa.
mo.
Diyos ko, Lord.